Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Laura, and I have Yury with me today. We're going to be talking a little bit about Yury's life and her role in the technology, her challenges, and how she has overcome. She has also some good advice for all of you. So, thanks for joining us again, and let me introduce Yury. So, Yury, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about your background and your current role?
Great. Hi, Laura. Thank you. Thank you so much for this invitation. It is an honor to be part of this guest panel. Regarding your question, let me introduce myself. I am Yury Nino, and right now I work as cloud infrastructure engineer at Google. As a parallel project, I am SRE and chaos engineering advocate. About my background, I have a bachelor in systems engineering and a master in computer science from the Universidad Nacional de Colombia. I have been working in this field for 17 years, probably. It seems like a lot of time, but since I have held several roles, this years has been an incredible trip to grow professionally and personally. I started my career as a software developer in the university, and after 10 years designing, implementing, and managing the development of technology solutions, almost always for the banking sector and financial sector, I moved to DevOps and infrastructure roles. Currently, I work in this area at Google. Basically, I work designing and implementing infrastructure, as I just mentioned, using DevOps and SRE principles and practices. And of course, the best recommendations in terms of security, reliability, and performance. One part of my jobs involves working with non-technical stakeholders and sales teams. I had to improve my soft skills precisely for that because I have to translate commercial business needs into cloud technical solutions, which requires to be a good communicator, a good teamwork member, and to have the ability to communicate in a clear way. The most important things to be resilient, because these problems are part of my job day to day.
Well, it sounds like you have had an amazing journey, 17 years working in tech. So there's so much for us to learn from you. So I want to continue with a question of what drove that change from software developer. I think you mentioned 10 years, and then you decided to move to DevOps. Can you tell us a little bit that journey?
Sure, sure. It was a little bit strange because although I enjoy my job a lot, as I as mentioned, I have been working with bank. I had to confess that for those days I was feeling tired of the routine. I have been doing the same work for almost 10 years in banking, building monolithics, using waterfall methodologies, solving issues with legacy infrastructure, because it is the context in a bank. Even putting out fires without analyzing root causes. Although now I think about it, it was precisely solving an issue in the bank, and I discovered chaos engineering in DevOps work. The story could be summarized like this. While I was presenting my solution in a conference, I was invited to work as DevOps engineer in the digital factory in the Grupo Val in Colombia. I wasn't sure of taking this challenge because I didn't know about that. So I had to start over as an automation junior DevOps engineer because, as I mentioned, I didn't know about I didn't have anything about DevOps. However, it has been one of the best decisions that I made in my professional career. I discovered a different world related cloud, about repositories, pipelines, automation, infrastructure as code, and the most important for me now, about injecting failures with chaos monkeys. I am applying principles and practices about site reliability engineering. I was promoted there until I become a technical program manager for SRE team in the Grupo Aval. So
I Thanks for sharing. I love how actually after 10 years of software development and probably you were quite experienced, you decided to go to a junior role for DevOps, but just to get something new and learn. So that's amazing. Yuri, my next question is, how did you first become interested in technology, and what led you actually to your current role?
Great. That is a great and a great question because since I can remember, I wanted to be an engineer. I remember that I enjoy assembling and disassembling stuff in my home. But probably my first interaction with tech topics was in high school when my father bought for me my first computer. I remember that he had to save two salaries
Mm.
to buy my first computer. And after that, draw school, I enjoyed math, science, and teaching others. My first attempt with technical things was when I had to choose a career to study in the university. When you are finishing the bachelor in Colombia, you have to choose a career to study. For those days, Microsoft released a new version of Encarta, and I want to know how it worked behind the scenes. I was obsessed with discovering how a box could show me the inside of a museum, for example, in an interactive video. So I decided to be a system engineer. Fortunately, I was admitted in the best public university in Colombia because I mentioned I for my family it wasn't easy to pay a university for me for those days. So I spent my best years of my life learning about programming, software, and hardware in the university. That was the first attempt with technical and technology things.
That's a great story. And for those that are watching that don't know what Encarta was, it was something very similar than Google Previews that you had to install in your computer, but it was like an encyclopedia full of all the knowledge. So yeah, that's thanks for sharing, Yuri. Next question is, what are the main challenges that you have faced in your career, and how you have overcome them?
Great. Since I started on this journey, I have had to overcome several challenges related to my professional and personal life, which may sound easy for some people, but for me, they have been very hard and painful. The most difficult part has been leaving my family so young. I was 15 years old when I enrolled in the university in Bogota, a big city compared with Garagoa. I was born in Garagoa. For those days, I had to live alone and far away from my family. Another important challenge has been learning new languages, specifically English and Portuguese. I must confess that I don't like to speak in another language. It is really difficult for me. I don't understand why, but I have problems, for example, memorizing new words and grammatical forms that I don't understand. So my apologies if my English is not the better. It is not proficiency, but I am trying to speak here. So, however, it hasn't represented an obstacle for giving my talks and conference. I think I missed to mention that I have had the fortune of participating in more than 100 conferences talking about chaos engineering and SRE topics. When I think about this, I cannot believe that I have been able to communicate my ideas in a different language because I mentioned I have several challenges trying to communicate my ideas in English. So, for example, at this moment, I am learning Portuguese, and that is really difficult for me also. But today, I have achieved that the attendance of my conference and talks understand what I say, and I can understand their questions and recommendations. So, I think that is an achievement for me, but probably for others, it sounds like very easy, but in a review, the main challenges are related with new languages and to live far away from my family and try to communicate my ideas in another language I just mentioned.
Um, yeah, I think everyone who has English as a second language, like me, can say that it's not easy and it takes a lot of effort to actually learn a language. And thanks for sharing that. And actually, more than 100 conferences, Yuri. That sounds so impressive. I love to. You have mentioned chaos engineering for quite a while. So I really want to know more about what you have done in this field. How did you achieve to go to 100 conference? That sounds amazing, and congratulations for that.
Thank you so much for this congratulations. For me, that is incredible because I didn't know how did happen, but I am really happy and I'm really happy about this achievement. And sure, regarding your questions, this almost 6 years in the chaos engineering world have been an incredible journey of adventures, conference, travels, and the most importantly, they have an opportunity to know amazing people around the world. As I has mentioned, everything started with an issue that I had to solve in the bank. It was related to performance and reliability of the authentication component in a microservice distributed architecture, and I test the solution that I designed to solve the issue using this new discipline. For those time, I remember probably it was 28, and I test the solution using a new discipline during those days, chaos engineering. While I was presenting the solution to the architectural committee in the bank, a colleague convinced me to write a paper and submit it to a conference. I wasn't good at public speaking. That now I mentioned that that is another challenge for me, speaking in a public scenario, because I had a job where I had been told that I was able to express my ideas in public and that people won't be able to understand what I was explaining. However, like everything in my life, I decided to try. I had nothing to lose. That is a mantra for me. So if you have the possibility to try it. The presentation was successful. I remember that I trained a lot of because it was my first conference, and I was invited. After that, I was invited to another conference. It was like a snowball since I enjoyed this part of my life because it was a positive feedback for me. So I applied to another conference in which was accepted. Today I have completed 116 talks talking about talking about chaos engineering. For example, 2 years ago, I had the fortune to speak in the QCon. That is the most important conference for development and infrastructure topics. Also, I had the opportunity to talk in the chaos engineering conference in San Francisco and in London in some years ago. In terms of what I have accomplished, I designed a tool to manage chaos game days. I love this tool. The name is Gaveta. A practice, chaos engineering is a practice in which an engineering team simulates production failures to determine the level of resilience of applications. The application is called Drawer or Gaveta, and it basically lets you configure and manage a chaos game day. That is the main functionality or the main features in the tool. And also, I implemented a proof of context, a POC, of a model that used machine learning to automate the writing of postmortems. Because when you have to write a postmortem, some eventually, the postmortem is like another postmortem that you write in the past. So I use a model in machine learning to train a set of postmortems, and the tool gives you a pre-filled template with the information in the postmortem according to the characteristics of this incident that you are facing.
This is amazing, Yuri. Thanks for sharing, and it's very impressive. Do you maybe can we share some links of some of your talks to our audience? Do you have like some recordings that for people who want to learn more about chaos monkeys and then eventually this tool?
Yes, yeah, sure. Thank you so much. And I am going to look for my personal page and a site in which I have the assets generated in each companies. Thank you so much for that. And sure,
Thank you,
that
Yuri. Let's change a little bit of gears now. I wanna jump into diversity. That's what we are here. The whole goal of Lovelace is to actually drive more women towards tech roles. So you've been in this industry for 17 years. How have you seen diversity and inclusion evolving in the tech industry through your career?
Yeah, that is an interesting question for those days because I think that these topics are receiving the proper attention at this moment in the industry. So diversity and inclusion are essential for progress. I think that is. But I think that is a reality, and I proved that in the last years. But getting access to it is not easy, according to a study published by IBM for business value 2018 report. Women hold only 26.7% of tech employment, while men hold 73% of these positions. Regarding to another communities or minority communities, Americans hold 72%, let me read this part, of the positions in the USA tech sector. Asian Americans account for 20% of jobs, and Latin Americans 80%, and Black Americans 70%.
I think Latin America is 8%, right? Okay.
Right. According to this study. So I think it's a big challenge for the governments and universities and in general in the industry to overcome these numbers because as I mentioned, the diversity and inclusion are very important in a team in technology because you have different view of a solution for a problem, for example, and it is required to have different positions, different cultural views, different points of view about the same problem. So although the landscape of diversity and inclusion has evolved significantly, for me, that is my personal view related to this topic because I just started to pay attention for this when I was contracted by Google. In my previous jobs, I never heard about this. In Google, it is a priority, but in the banks, we don't, yeah, we didn't put attention for these topics. I don't know why, but when I was contracted by Google, the, I discovered a war around this topic. The company, because the company supports several inclusion and diversity programs for Hispanic and Black people, abuse women, for example, and men of veterans. These programs create spaces and provide tools for career development and community partnership. For me, it has been a great discovery, as I mentioned, since diversion and inclusion means freedom, opportunity, and influence. I believe that everyone, without matter if you are Hispanic or Latin American, you have the potential to achieve great things. And I see that these programs influence others to reach their full potential. So there is a book named World Rules at Google, and that is a great reference about how Google promote these topics inside the company, and how Google has achieved many things related to that, supporting people around the world and supporting these minorities in our tech community.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. We will make sure to put the name of the book on the comments, so people can actually check it out. And yes, I agree. We do need to be more intentional and have this type of programs to drive more inclusion. And hopefully those banks and financial services will start to adopt those eventually. Um, Now let's talk about work-life balance, which is such an important topic. How do you manage your life and work in this tech industry? Because sometimes people believe that working in tech means that you have to work long hours, and it might be a little bit difficult to maintain that balance. So can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yes, sure, sure. But I would like to close the last questions, mentioning that, for example, this initiative that you are promoting is a great opportunity to promote these diversity and inclusion topics, because if you give visibility about, for example, our achievements and our challenges, for example, in my case, related to learn new languages, that is an probably an inspiration, or for another persons who belongs to these communities. So regarding the question
I just want to say
for
something. Sorry, I agree with you, and I hope that if somebody's watching us and they don't speak good English, then it doesn't mean that they cannot end up in DevCon or in a huge conference, because everything is possible. And as you said, your mantra is like, let's try it out. So thanks, Yuri, for saying that, and for sharing your story. Now back to the question about work-life balance.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, I agree also. So I don't think I am the right person to talk about these topics, about work life balance, because I am going through a health challenge due at this moment, due to my obsession with work and productivity. However, I am learning that human effort is a finite resource. So when you are surrounded by understanding peers, it is easy to feel like you constantly need to work harder, to be better, to produce more and more and more, because at this moment we are living from of a pressure related our productivity. I don't understand why, because for example, in my case, my manager don't put any pressure for me, but but I feel that I need to be the most productive person in my team, and I have to work and work and work and learning new topics and getting certifications, and making or trying courses. So we are living a moment in which we impose a pressure in our daily activities related to work. So I don't think that I am right person, but with my health issue, I learned that you have to put attention to health, to family, to another things, because without those things you don't have work. For example, without health you don't have the
Yes.
possibility to perform your job in a proper way. So but like it or not, each of us has a throughput limit, as I just mentioned, the amount of work we can get done on average in a given for time. Releasing that I had to put limits for the job and limits for my time, because I need free time to do anything: painting, learning about music, reading a book, even to do anything. Because if you I read a statement last week related to that the creative persons need to do anything in one moment of their life. So I think that is very important to balance and create the spaces and separate the spaces for your family, for your enjoys activities that you enjoy, and for the job and for work, and not put pressure without need, because you don't need to be the more productive person in your team. And probably, and with security, I think with security, your team um, is comfortable with your work, and you don't have to, for example, sacrifice your family or your friends or another space for the job.
Thank you, Yuri, for sharing your own experience, and I hope that you get better on your health. And on this topic, I agree. I think that we put some goals to ourselves that get us very anxious, and we just try to achieve more. And sometimes to achieve more, we need to achieve less and go slower. So, thank you for sharing that, and I hope that you get better. Okay, so and my next question would be, of course, on the topic of diversity. We talk already about how important it is for the tech industry to have more women. So, what advice, if we have a woman listening that is maybe considering a tech career, what would be your advice for this?
Okay, that is an interesting question, because there are a lot of resources in internet, but I would like to share some strategies for improving your skills in this field. So regarding hard skills, my advice is working that you enjoy. That is the most important, as we mentioned in the last answer, regarding your last question. It is very important that you enjoy your job and you enjoy to another activities. So in this case, the hard skills require that you enjoy that you are doing in your job. So I can share many resources such as courses or certifications. But if you don't enjoy, you won't be able to take advantage of them. Having said that, my favorite resources to grow in technical or technology topics are the podcasts. I really enjoy the podcasts and YouTube channels, and I have a tool in which I can register several RSS feeds, which I have subscribed to. My favorite podcast is Las Voces de la Nube. That is a podcast in Spanish for Latin America. That in this podcast, the presenter gives visibility about our achievements in Google Cloud. So another podcast I enjoyed is related to AWS, Charlas Técnicas de AWS or AWS, because they invite some colleagues and some persons that who work in this field in Latin American region. So I really enjoyed these two podcasts related to cloud. On YouTube, I am subscribed to Gotopia and InfoQ channels. That is great because they have a lot of competence, a lot of talks. And if you want to be or to keep updated about these topics, that is a really good source for that. And although my favorite channel in YouTube is Veritasium. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I would like to share the link in the notes of this video, which is more focused on science, but it is amazing. And finally, I use Feedly. As I mentioned, Feedly is a tool that allows you keep updated about cloud, DevOps, and necessary topics. Regarding soft skills, my recommendations are related to communication. So I, as mentioned, it was very challenging for me. So when I overcome my insecurities with communication, I had the possibility to achieve more and more things for that. Because it is really, really important. You should be able to make yourself clear and persuasive in written and spoken communication. I think that is a very important for our jobs. For example, in my case, I work with customers, and I have to I need to communicate my ideas, and the most important, I require that the others understand that I am explaining or trying to communicate. If you are in a meeting without contributing anything, for example, you are not making much in that. Another thing is related to networking, making connections. For example, the conference led me to discover this world, and it is very important. For example, I had the possibility to meet you. That is a great thing for and a fortune of the conference. So I think the other thing is related to networking and making connection, because I think that is key for getting successful things in your job. So and finally, I strong advocate being proactive about reaching to others teams where you see the opportunity to work together. For example, creating these communities or creating networking around a topic. For example, that you are making here, creating a community that a preoccupation or that have a priority in inclusion and diversity topics, and give visibility our job as women, or as another minority community. So this take a lot of that is really, really value for us, considering that I think that in a summarize, communication, creating networking, and be proactive to reaching others who wants to learn about you, or who needs to any resources. If you have the possibility to collaborate with them, that is really, really valuable for our communities and for us. Because when you help other or you support other, you learn also. You learn about the person, and about the challenges, and about the last requirements of the technical and technology communities.
I love all of your advices, technical and non-technical. So we will share the links of all these podcasts in Spanish and in English that you share. I personally don't know a couple of them, so quite interested in getting. And soft skills, yes, I would agree. Communication and networking and helping others. So thank you, Yuri. And we're getting to our last question, which is always the same, and it's we want to pay this forwards. So I want to get to interview the next person, and we want to get to know more amazing stories. So who would you like to read or watch in our next Lovelace series?
Great, great. I love this question, because first of all, thank you so much for recommending me when you were asked about these questions. I really happy when I read your story, and when I read that your recommendation is about me. So thank you so much. I admire you. That is reciprocal. So since I cannot recommend you, because you presented in the last book, I would like to read the story of Ana Medina. Ana Medina is an inspiration for me, because she's involved in chaos engineering also, but she has a interesting story about the Hispanic and Latin American women in USA. She worked for Uber and Gremlin, and at this moment she keeps a recognition and related to chaos engineering. So, for example, she was a speaker in QCon conferences, and in many conferences also. So I really admire her. So I would like to read his her story in this blog, and you can find about her in Google. But she's a great person, so I would like to read about her in the
We'll
next editions.
hopefully we'll have her, and we'll tag her in LinkedIn as well. Yuri, thank you so much. So I think this has been a fantastic interview. I really love your story from coming from software developer, going to a junior role for DevOps, and now becoming such an inspirations in chaos engineering. That's very impressive, to be honest. And thanks for sharing about your issues with work and productivity and health and all these advices. I really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully others will also enjoy it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much also that I was mentioned that it's an honor to be here. And thank you so much for everything in another topics. Thank you for your support because you are an inspiration for me and as a supportive person when I had to travel to London, for example, it was to have the opportunity to speak with you. So thank you so much, and thank you for creating these spaces, for giving visibility about our job. And finally, my apologies for my English level, but
No,
I try
don't.
to communicate
Your
my ideas. So
your
thank you so
English
much for
is
everything.
your English is just okay, and hopefully we'll get to see you in the next DevCom in London
Great,
and do
great.
it in person. Bye
I
bye,
hope the
Judy.
same. Bye, Laura. Thank you so much.